Hello, YouTube. This tape is going to be on common characteristics of a cult. First of all, let's put it out there. No one goes out and joins a cult just to join a cult. Nobody says, hey, I want to be a cult member, and I'm going to dedicate my time, my resources, my livelihood, my youth, and every substance that I have into a lie. Nobody goes out and does that. There's two ways that cults get members. They either raise them as children and indoctrinate them with their dogma, or they do covert recruitment techniques. And usually a lot of the recruitment techniques that they use, they do not tell them up front what the cult is really like. But it's like a ball, a thread. You pull it and it just starts to unravel with time. It's kind of like a crab trap. You know, it's really easy to get in, but it's virtually impossible to get out. And I say virtually impossible. Once somebody gets into a cult, it literally almost feels like a life or death experience, because the pain is so excruciating when you try to leave that you feel like you're dying. And I only say that from firsthand experience. It also happens, the same type of behavior is in an abusive relationship, because a cult is just like an abusive relationship. It has the same technique. The only difference is the institution. But the technique and the way that they conduct themselves is the same way in the cult of one, which is an abusive relationship of a man or a woman. And so, 4 common characteristics of a cult. Number 1, members serve total allegiance to an all-powerful leader. There is a leader that has been elevated to godlike status. They look to him for their direction, their leadership. They do not make decisions without his approval, and some of them are just like buying a car, refinancing the house. Many things that they go and they talk to their pastor or to their religious leader because they feel that they cannot make this big decision without his approval. Number 2, rational thought is discouraged or forbidden. You cannot critically analyze the behavior that they are behaving in. You cannot have rational thought. And if you do, you are coming against the leadership, you are coming against God's anointed, even if it sounds incredibly bizarre. Like, you can't eat meat. Well, why did God put canine teeth in my mouth if I cannot eat meat? Or, you cannot wear makeup. Well, it's not the lipstick on one's lips that defile them, but what comes out of their lips that defiles them. This is rational thought, but this is discouraged. And if you have any inkling of rational thought, you are marked as a troublemaker and you are disciplined very severely. Number 3, the cultic recruitment technique is often deceptive. When they recruit someone, they don't tell them up front. They say, when we take up our tithes and offerings, we do this, for our members, not for people that are visiting. They don't tell them up front that they want them to pay 23% of their income. All they do is show them is all the fun that they're going to have, all the excitement they're going to have, and their recruitment technique. They don't tell them that that they have to obey the leader, and any questioning will be dealt with harshly, because a new recruit can question, and they're told, this, and this, but it's often, I've made my decision to dress like this, and this is my commitment to God, and instead of saying, hey, I signed this statement saying that I have to dress a certain way all the time, and if not, I will be blackballed from the church. See, they don't tell them up front what the truth really is. And in their recruitment technique, they don't tell them that their doctrine is different or deviant from from mainstream Christianity either. Oh, we're just like everybody else. Number 4, the cult weakens the follower psychologically by making him or her depend upon the group to solve his or her problem. They take away independent thinking. They don't allow them to think for themselves. You know, they always say, well, how do we feel about this? Or how does the organization feel about this? What am I supposed to think? See, I'm not allowed to have independent thought. And because of that, that person becomes controlled not from within by their own sense of values of right and wrong, but it comes from without. It's pressed upon them, and it makes their decision making outside of themselves. So they're basically operating themselves by someone else's remote control. No longer are they allowed to have independent thought outside of the group, and they're frowned upon if they have independent thought. And a lot of it is through what you would call judging or legalism. And it's like the organization believes that you cannot dress a certain way. The organization believes that you cannot eat meat. The organization believes that, and these are not biblical formatted. These are man-made doctrine. And it's not allowing you to make a decision based upon the clothes that you wear, getting a haircut or not cutting your hair, believing, going door to door and have to sell a certain amount of people on your doctrine and handing out pamphlets, going door to door and selling, jewelry for the organization, that you cannot make a decision not to do that because you don't feel like doing it today and you have other things to do and you got family you got to take care of. No, the cult comes first. Okay, number 5, the cult manipulates guilt to their advantage. Guilt is an incredible force to reckon with in any abusive relationship. You can remember the acronym FOG, F-O-G. One of the techniques that a very abusive relationship, be it a cult, be it a organization, be it a magazine selling crew, they use guilt to manipulate. F is for fear, O is for obligation, and G is for guilt, and it will put you in a tailspin of fog, and you cannot see clearly. But a cult is a master at manipulating guilt to their advantage. And once they imply this, you will be enslaved to them because you are trying to pacify your guilt. And this guilt can be authentic guilt or false guilt, but in an unhealthy relationship, it's generally false guilt. You feel guilty because you wear makeup. You feel guilty because you're not dressing a certain way. You feel guilty because you ate some certain food. You feel guilty because you didn't pound on enough doors and recruit enough people to the organization. You feel guilty if you did not pay the status quota of what they're asking for. You feel guilty if you cannot give $100 in an offering. You feel guilty because you haven't come to the last service. You feel guilty because your church attendance has dwindled down to once or twice a week instead of 4 times a week, and you didn't make it for prayer last night. They use guilt as their advantage to manipulate you to work harder and harder for the organization.